Welcome back to part two of Alfred Reiner's Mission from Behind Bars.
Means being placed in prison for the rest of your life, which our Florida Constitution forbids. And
Wow.
let me tell you why it forbids it. In 1863, when they abolished slavery, the politicians and the judges, not all of them, but a lot of them were plantation owners.
Mhm.
And from that point, if you, and I don't know if Willie Lynch letter is is an actual thing, but the 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 facts of it is true. And of what was going on and the way that they thought back then. You know, and they talked about the phenomenal shift that the slaves were going to make. Well, when they made that phenomenal shift, the plantation owners, the slaves, masters, and et cetera, whatever you want to call them, you know, they made a phenomenal shift, and they took it from crop holders to shareholders, right? So
Mhm.
in 1863, they abolished slavery. Phenomenal shift. 1865, indenture servitude, 13th Amendment.
Mhm.
It's because what they realized is that slavery was defeated because it was identified as a crime against humanity,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So they took that and flipped it on its head and made crime the new slavery,
Wow.
taking away taking away the voice, the very voice that the inhumanity that slavery pronounced as inhumane,
Mm.
because now they can say, oh, they're they're not slaves, they're criminals,
Jesus.
right? So then they started dishing out life sentences to these newly free men, right? And working these life sentences not as slaves, leasing them out to be worked not as slaves, but as criminals.
Mm. Mm.
And a year after that, in 1868, they incorporated a company known as the Florida Department of Corrections.
Hmm. Wow.
And we need prisons. Don't get me wrong. We need a punitive system for those who decide to break the law. Okay, but punitive, like when you're talking about a correctional system, you remove the whole need for correction when you sentence people to die in prison, which might take 70 years to do.
Mm.
And that just compounds the the the, the, the economical woes that this system puts on the taxpayers. And I really want to. I can go all kind of different ways, but I want to let you get out what you wanted to ask.
That was very helpful hearing that because that's kind of the merit of the whole filing now. I have a clear picture. But back to the original question, people think that the inmates have to file it with their law clerk, but you're saying that families can file it with the help of a lawyer, basically take some of the
Absolutely.
language and add their case to it.
Yeah. So the motion's there just as awareness. You can
Okay.
delete it. You can delete. You can add. You can amend. You can supplement. You can
Okay.
do whatever you want with it. It's just there. It's something that I spent years putting together, and it's there for the world to and the January 5th thing is just something that the lifers came up with.
Really?
Yeah, so this is just something that somehow grew into a movement, you know.
Wow.
And they say, they want to all file on the beginning of legislative session, to bring awareness, to the issue.
Okay.
Florida leads the world, in the land of the free. One state leads the world per capita in sentencing its citizens to die in prison under life sentences.
Okay, that's why I was. That was another question about the January 5th because I was like, is this like the inmate insurrection? Because January 6th is, people will remember that date, but now there's another date to remember. I think that's amazing. That's awesome. But they were thinking about the first day legislation starts for the legislation session. But that's
Yes,
interesting.
from what I understand,
Okay.
is that they want to say, hey, for years we've been asking for reform. For years we have been denied reform. You know, um, take notice. Your every statute that has given a life sentence is constitutionally illegal, and the rule of lenity says that you must interpret it with the definition that favors the accused, the lifers.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, and so the 3800 is just a regular motion to correct a legal sentence. Now I'll be filing a 1983 into the federal court, asking to um, to to abolish for a declaratory judgment and injunctive relief against the life sentences in Florida.
Okay.
Now, with that, um, they can look at the facts of the case, the merit of the case, right, which is before everybody in that motion, and they can say we agree. But here's why it's important for the 1983 is now a special master can get assigned to this case, and we sit down, state of Florida, me, and the special master, just like a lawsuit, and a mediational hearing is had. Now we mediate. Now Society First has solutions. In the Florida Department of Corrections, I mean, I'm the one that wrote up the very first incentivized prison draft and gave it to Warden Party. He was my warden. And he years later went into Everglades and implemented the very first incentivized prison.
Wow.
You know, um, the the whole infrastructure of our Ready or Not, the phase two of our Ready or Not proposal deals with changing the whole infrastructure of the DOC, and they mirror imaged what they're doing to just like phase two of our Ready or Not proposal. Now, phase one is a role. So now we sit down in the 1983 situation and we negotiate a settlement. I'm not asking for money. I want reform, right?
Mhm.
To bring a criminal justice system is good at identifying those who are ready and guaranteeing release. Not, hey, it's a thing of grace.
Mhm.
Florida doesn't believe in grace. Florida doesn't believe in mercy.
Mhm.
Um, so we're not going to leave it to the politicians to tell us whether they're going to hinge their career on believing that I will not reoffend. No,
Mhm.
we're going to create a system that organically prepares the people and sets them up upon reentry to succeed. Because when you set us up to succeed on reentry, then you're setting society up to succeed. Lowering the recidivism, heightening the economical growth, all at the same time.
Mhm.
So we have a plan of action. We have blueprints, sociological and penological engineering within Society First. That we have full plans that God has given me, and that Society First, thus Society First, um, and our focus is to bring hope, and to bring healing. I know the God I served, King David, Moses, Paul. I mean, these are people God used the redeemed.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and if we create a culture in our society that follows the same path that God used, then how much better can our society get as a collective? So we'll be working on bringing a new parole system. So this doesn't only affect lifers, life sentences, but virtual lifers. It affects people with 15 years. It affects people with 10 years. You know,
Mhm.
what we're doing affects the 87,000 people that's already in the system and the 40,000 that's coming into the system,
Wow.
and on and on.
So when they file this 3800 motion with their county, they have to wait for the county judge to either approve or
Approve.
deny. And can they just flat out deny it?
Yes. So that's sadly enough. Sadly enough. Sadly enough, the court system, because of the PCA for the district court and everything, they don't have to give no explanation. I mean, legally they do. They PCA you, they deny it. Okay, that's fine. They can do that. You know, but then the federal court will be addressing this because does the federal court want the tens of by the end of before it's all said and done, every lifer will end up filing, right?
Mhm.
Um, does the federal court want to address every single 15,000, 10,000 life sentence motions that's going to be filed? Because we're gonna appeal, we're gonna go up the chain of the ladder, and then we're going to the federal court. Or can the federal court say, look at the merit of our claim, say, Florida, this is your problem, now address it, and then
Wow.
prove our declaratory judgment and our injunctive relief against the life sentences. Every single statute that has given a life sentence is an unconstitutional statute.
Mhm.
And Florida might say, how dare you try to gridlock our court system? But how dare them ignore the law that they took an oath to obey and protect,
Right.
the Constitution?
Right.
How dare you create a new subhuman? That new subhuman is the inmate, the criminal.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, so there's a lot of how dare yous. You know, but what we're saying is, how can we go from community offender to community mender?
Okay. This is
That,
this is good. I actually just